Hi everybody, Dennis Gebhardt here with Guru Nation. Thank you so much for tuning into this video. Today's video is a little sampling of the broadcast I did on Instagram today. I do an IG Live occasionally each week, and you can find me at Real Captain Color on Instagram. But in any case, I want you to kind of check it out, answer some questions for you today. You know how those questions are in our industry today. So look, take a look, let me know what you think. Everybody have a great day. From my heart to yours, I'm Captain Color. I'm out. Enjoy. Well, here we are, 10:01 Friday morning in beautiful Southern California. Hello, everybody. Hello, 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 hello. Welcome, welcome. Glad you are all here. Oh, let's see. Bum, bum, bum. I'll wave to you. Beauty by Sammy. Hello. Oh, let me get this one wave done. Good, good. Hi, everybody. Well, Friday morning, here we are. Let me get rid of my music while we wait for everybody else to get on board. Sasha Smith, welcome. Hair by Ashley, welcome. Glad to see you all. Hope you're all doing well. All right. So we've got some people on. Good. Well, it's Friday morning. It's May 1st. Happy May Day to everyone. Do you feel the adrenaline that's happening across the country? Holy smokes. There's at least, I think, a couple of dozen protests going on. Feroza, hello, my friend from South Africa. So glad you're here. And people are protesting. Americans are ready to get back to work. They've had enough, and I'm sure all over the country we've had enough. We want to be smart about it, but it gets to a point where our industry is on the verge of being destroyed, along with the restaurant business and many other small business, entrepreneurial type of businesses that are going on. So here we are, and we fully expect to probably be open sooner than later. But we're kind of watching things. We're preparing. I've never bought so much protective gear in my entire life. And of course, you can't find it every place, so you have to source it out. But we are prepared. We're ready to go. For many of you, I'm sure you're waiting as well. I don't know what state you're in or what country that you're in, but we're all waiting to get the opportunity to get back to our life and to be with our clients again, and to do all the things that we were accustomed to that helps us as human species. It's part of the way we are. It's the way we interact with each other. So in any case, we're all on hold waiting for that. Today I wanted to come on and address a couple of questions that have come across. And I have to laugh because sometimes when I get these questions and I see the way they, and I'm assuming these were information that was delivered by other people who are supposedly educators. And my question, if you're an educator, you have a large responsibility. You want to show your craft. You want to share your technique. You want to help people learn a skill. But you also have a responsibility is to be accurate in the information that you share. And I think for many of us, we just take the information that we're given, whomever our mentor was, or whomever the person is who is in charge of training us, we take their information and we run with it. And as I've said all along, is that, our mind is like a colander. That means that some things stick when that information is delivered to us. Other things don't stick. So we end up with gaps in our learning. And sometimes rather than trying to find a source to fill in that gap, what we do is we fill it in on our own. And that's how we come up with all of these stranger than fiction pieces of information. So I have three things I want to address this morning, and then I'll answer some questions for you. Hopefully, we hope they have integrity. Yes, we only hope they have integrity. I think many people should look up the definition of integrity and see what that really means. I mean, for me, it means doing the right thing even when nobody's looking. There are many people who are in our business, even public speakers, motivational speakers, if you will, that on stage they have one personality, and off stage they turn into, they're like a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And I think that it's about being authentic. That's very, very important. And I think that only comes from your passion and your belief in your purpose. And for me as a trainer, my purpose is to help my fellow, and when I'm training, is to help my fellow professionals find a pathway and to help them be more successful, to reach out and be able to achieve success quicker than it took people in my generation. You know, I can pretty much shoot from the hip here because I can't see you all and say to you that I'm probably older than all of you that are watching me right now. And so I've seen this industry really go through some amazing changes, and I've seen its resilience. And I've seen it go through the high points of times in the industry and the industry history, and low points. And I think for us today, we have a lot of people in our industry, new people in our industry, young people in our industry that are hungry for not just information, but for accurate information. I know a friend of mine, Chris Vineski out of North Carolina. Chris has a school there. And what I loved, he made a post the other day. He said, YouTube is not beauty school. I think that's so accurate. You know, on YouTube, you can see lots of techniques and there's lots of information you can gather, but it doesn't always take the place of actually working hands-on with a mentor or with a coach by your side. So let me address the first question. It came to me just the other day, and this information was delivered. I actually saw the video by someone who is an influencer here on social media, and they were discussing Shade GQ. So I feel I kind of have a right to talk about Shade GQ since I'm one of the three guys, me, Dr. Hayel Saeed, and Dr. Bill Baylor, who were in charge of that project for Redken. And so Shades is one of my surrogate children. And this educator, or influencer, if you will, was sharing with one of people who follow me and saying that Shade GQ Clear, all right, is not at all a Shade GQ. It is an alkalizing shampoo, so you shouldn't use clear on the hair because it can damage the hair more than anything else. And although part of that, I know what they were trying to say, it's not really accurate. First of all, it's not an alkalizing shampoo. It's the base of Shade GQ without any pigment added. Many manufacturers make clear colors. They make clear shades. And primarily, the purpose for that clear with Shade GQ, and for any other that I've been involved in creating, was to use it as a diluting agent. In other words, when we originally created shades back in 1986, the objective of the project was to create a hair color that hairdressers could use, because hair color was not a really prominent part of our services in the salons, a hair color that hairdressers could use that would give them, not take them into an edge where they might create some result where the hair color would go sideways. So we created a color that would primarily be a depositing hair color, and it would be able to deposit not only oxidative dyes, but also direct dyes. Oxidative are small and colorless. Direct dyes are large and preformed. The dyes we were using were really a basis of paraphenylene dyes, PPD, and they were pre-developed. So we called them nitro dyes, is what they were called, to intensify the shades. So that was the combination that was put into that product back in 1986, because we launched it in 1988. The purpose was to put color or add color to the hair without disturbing much of the hair's natural pigment. So it was really basically supposed to be a deposit-only hair color. That's the way it was promoted, that way it was advertised. And because our big competition back then was a company called Sebastian, and they had a color called Cellophanes, which was primarily direct dyes. So when we created shades, we wanted to make it a colorist color. In other words, so that you did not have to have 40 shades or 80 shades in your dispensary, because we knew that most hairdressers only use 6 different colors. So what we did is we created, I think our original family were 12 shades. There were 12 shades in Shades EQ and clear. And the idea was that you could take a darker shade, that tonality, and you could add clear to it, and you could lighten it to a lighter level, which you can still do today, which you can do with most clear colors that are manufactured by manufacturers. That's really what clear colors are designed to do. And that's the way the color line was designed. But as it went along and as marketing got a hold of it, they wanted to give it more impact. And that's the thing about marketing departments. They try, I believe they do the hi Kendra, I believe they have the Amway mentality, meaning that, you can shine your shoes, you can water, you can polish your plants, you can brush your teeth with the same product, right? They want to make it universal, multi-use. So the story was created that Shades EQ Clear, used by itself, would create shine. And so many people started teaching it as something to shine. And because we've all had this indoctrination in our head that we talk about hair color as though we're painting, so we're painting something over the top of something else, people were using it to lock in their permanent hair color, which you can't do that. But that's what they were selling. That's how they were selling it. So what caused a big issue was that, number one, people really, they weren't really getting more shine by using clear by itself, because here's the thing. In order to have shine, okay, this is real simple. You want to write this down maybe. In order to have shine, you must have reflect. In order to have reflect, you must have tone. Simple as that. So because Shades EQ Clear didn't have any tone in it, it really didn't give you a lot of reflect. So what we began to teach them, hopefully they would understand that even if you put like a drop of yellow into Shades EQ Clear, it would actually have more reflect. It would not look yellow. It would actually have more reflect because there was a minimal amount of tone to give that, for light to bounce off of. And so that's how Shades was created. Now, as I've been away from that company now since 2010, so God, almost 10 years. Well, it has been 10 years. Some of those old stories have stuck around. And so there's still people who teach that. And they have to really, it's not true what they're teaching you, okay? So number one, it's not an alkalizing shampoo, but it's not going to give you more shine than if you used a color that had tonality to it. So if you want to get the maximum amount of shine, if you're a Shades EQ user, and you want to get the maximum amount of reflect or shine out of it, put a little bit of tone in that formula. Not a lot, just maybe a couple of drops of yellow into the clear will give you enough tonality so it will enhance the reflect that you're trying to create. But it's not an alkalizing shampoo, so that, unless they've totally changed that formula, and I don't believe that they have, it is an oxidative color. You have to mix a developer with it. They call it processing solution. And so if it's an oxidative color, it's not acid. See, people cheat on this acid story because here's what we know. If I take an acid at a pH of 4, 3.5 to 4, and I mix it even with something at a pH of 8.5, I'm still going to be more alkaline than I am acid. And so we have to know that is a possibility. That's what's going to happen. So it doesn't seal. That's the thing. There's nothing sealing your cuticle. Besides, you can't seal your cuticle because it has small microscopic holes in it. It's a semi-permeable tissue. And so unless you're buying polyurethane at Home Depot, you can't seal the cuticle. So that's my story on Shades EQ. Okay, let's see. You waved at, I did wave at all you folks. Yeah, David Peacemaker, how you doing, brother? Good to see you. All right, so now for the fun stuff, for the stuff that makes me want to drink. Okay, I had 3 of these sent in to me today. I printed them out, so these were actually posts on social media. So you're going to love this. Let's see here. Let's start with this one. All right, so here's what it says. When you blow dry the hair, each strand of hair has tiny pores that open up from the heat and release what's inside, which usually is whatever is inside the body. So if COVID-19 is in the body, it will be released in the air. Hot curling irons release people's toxins in the air as well. Okay, I'm going to call BS on this. First of all, the hair doesn't have pores. The cuticle layer has holes in it. It's semi-permeable. Those are not pores. The hair does not react to heat. Those pores do not open when you heat the hair. All right, so the way the cuticle works is you swell the cuticle, and the cuticle imbrications, the layers, the edges of the cuticle swell and separate. Those holes don't get larger. The cuticle layers have more separation. And what's in your body, it is true that sometimes only if you take and you test DNA on the first ½ inch, that you have to extract the entire bulb of the hair in order to do this, but you can tell a person's blood type. You can detect some of the, if they have any medication in their body or whatever, but that doesn't come from the mid-lengths to the ends of the hair. The keratinized portion of the hair doesn't do that. That keratinized portion is for any other reason dead. It is a dead, porous, fibrous appendage of the body. So this is total nonsense, but people post this and they're influencers, and can you see why people get confused? So, you know, curling iron releases people's toxins in the air as well. That's nonsense. That's total nonsense. So it blows my mind. And this is why sometimes I go on a rant, because you would think, can you imagine trying to get the government to understand that we know what we're doing when we think that there's pores in the hair that open up and release toxins out of our hair? You know, what would the hair have in it? Well, the hair is like a filter. It's like the filter in your car, the air filter. The hair will pick up impurities, but those don't come from your body internally. Those impurities are picked up from external things like smoke in the air, like salt in the air. You know, that's why your hair swells when you go to the beach, because you have salt water. As the water dehydrates, the salt, sodium chloride, because it's very light, will have a tendency to, sometimes the air will have that salty texture in it as well. That can get caught in your hair. It can swell your hair when you're at the beach. When you're in a jacuzzi, the chlorine in the water, the actually copper salts, get caught up in the steam that comes off the top of the jacuzzi. And even if you're a blonde and you're sitting on the edge of the jacuzzi and you're not in the water, you still could possibly pick up some of those copper salts, and they filter through your hair, and you could have effects of chlorine, the chlorine effects in blonde hair. So I'll just put that one in the trash can. All right, so here's the next one. You'll love this. Leaving hair to dry naturally can be more damaging than intense heat. Hair can absorb up to 30% of its own weight in water. That's true. The longer it stays wet, the worse things get, as it continues to swell. This is because repeated swelling followed by slow drying of the hair causes something called the cell membrane complex. You guys who know me have heard me talk about that. The cell membrane complex, essentially the glue holding the cuticle together, the cuticle layers together, not the cuticle, to crack, permanently damaging the hair. You'd be better off drying your locks quickly with heat rather than going on natural. All right, so first of all, the CMC is made up of humectants, natural oils, lipids. All of those things are primarily oil-based. So water and oil do not mix together. So it is impossible for the water to dry out those lipids that are between your cuticle layers. In fact, those lipids are going to repel water and they're going to prevent the hair from absorbing water. So the more porous hair is, the less lipids you have, and that's what causes porous hair to uptake liquid much more dramatically or much faster. If this were true, then going back to the days when we did permanent waving, you should never let a permed head of hair dry naturally, because according to this information, it would dry out the natural lipids in your hair and the hair would become worse. Then water will swell the hair, that's true. It swells the hair approximately 17.5%. So kind of bumps it a little bit, but it doesn't continually to swell because the hair will only take on as much as it can and then it will repel the rest. So it doesn't matter whether I let you sit in that and put your head in a shampoo bowl and kept your hair wet for 2 hours, it is not going to affect the lipids, the natural lipids between your cuticle layers. So I have 2 words for this person. Stop it. This is craziness. Okay, so obviously this was, I'm just shooting from the hip here. I think it probably was. They were talking about, because when we go back, they don't want us to blow dry hair. So this person was saying, well, you have to blow dry hair, because if you don't, the water is going to dry out your natural lipids in your hair. And that's not going to happen. Water's going to dry out before the lipids do. The lipids are oil-based. All right. The third one. This was just a person asking me to talk about heat in relation to hair color and the actual effects the dryer has on sun, etc., on the hair. Okay, so let's take these one at a time. Heat in relation to hair color. Hair color doesn't require heat to really process. Heat is something that we have developed a habit of using because we're in a hurry. And we think, in our mind, that heat is going to accelerate it. If I take a normal hair color and I expose it to abnormal temperatures of heat, if I put a plastic bag on our head and put it under a dryer, the heat will activate the chemical, will act as a catalyst to the chemical. It will not affect the hair whatsoever. So let's imagine that I'm using a high lift tent. And to hurry it up, or to get an extra bump, let me wave to every you guys. To get an extra bump, I put it under heat. So it actually acts as a catalyst. Google the word catalyst. And what that does is that means it activates or it speeds up the process. So I have a high lift tent, which is normally an oil bleach with a little bit of pigment added to it to begin with. And now I expose it to 126 degrees of heat. That's what a normal bonnet hairdryer is on high. So what happens is the high lift tent, it accelerates the lightening process, and it will actually degrade any pigment that's in that high lift tent because it'll cannibalize itself. So if I only have 1 or 2 units of pigment in my high lift tent, which most have, maybe 1, 2, maybe 3 units of pigment, that's it. It'll cannibalize all that pigment, and so I will never get them to a light platinum or a light pastel. They will always have some degree of yellow in the hair, and the reason is because we have cannibalized that. We have created an environment that caused the color to cannibalize itself, and it degraded the very pigment or dye intermediates that it was delivering into the hair. So hair color doesn't require heat. Some people with their products or their additives, they add heat to them. There's a company out there who says if you use their their product you can process with heat and get a better result in a quicker time. All hair color will give you some degree of deposit in 10 or 15 minutes when you start a process. So all hair color will give you a quick deposit. That's just simply under processing the color. I don't recommend that. I recommend most hair colors are tested in the laboratory at room temperature, and if that's the way they test it, that's what I recommend that you do. She also asked, what are the actual effects of the dryer? When you blow dry color treated hair, there's not an issue. The heat doesn't affect the color that's in the hair. Here's what happens. Remember, when we color hair, we're not just coloring hair in the cortex. We also color hair in and around the cuticle layers. And so as we expose the hair to heat, all right, meaning that we've shampooed it, we've blown dry it. So you're going to shampoo it. So when you shampoo it, water's going to swell the cuticle slightly. When it swells the cuticle slightly, some of those coupling agents between the dye intermediates are going to break down. And as those coupling agents between the dye intermediates break down, you don't see the tone anymore. The tone looks lighter and lighter and lighter. And so that is how fading occurs. Color doesn't wash out of the hair. Color is just simply, we're breaking down the coupling, the binding of the dye intermediates, and as those get broken down, that's when we have issues. Now, if you took a hot iron at 450 degrees without some sort of a thermal insulator, and you applied that to color treated hair, now you're actually baking the hair, broiling the hair actually, because if you have a hot iron at 450, you imagine that if you go home to your oven and you turn your oven on broil is 500. So broiling a steak at 500 is only 50 degrees higher than using a 450 degree flat iron on the hair. So let's imagine fine hair that's color treated, and you're going to use a flat iron because that's part of what we've learned to do. We use a flat iron now to create those big beach waves and things like that. I take 450 degrees. I apply it to fine hair, which has more cuticle than it has cortex, so predominantly the dye development is in the cuticle layer. And I actually place my iron on that hair, and suddenly the color disappears, or I burn out the color, and that I've seen that happen. And that is what happened. It was a combination of the texture of the hair in a relationship to the heat in the flat iron. So there's really no reason for anyone to have to use a flat iron at 450 degrees unless you have medium or coarser textures of hair. Most hair will respond at about 327, maybe 365. That's really the maximum temperature that's necessary to do. And then you add in poor behavior with a flat iron, where we don't do one pass, we do like 6 or 7 passes because we're in a hurry. Here's the thing about using a flat iron that's important, I think, always to remember. First of all, is pressure. You have to have the right amount of pressure based upon the hair's texture. Second of all, you have to have the right amount of heat. Third, you have to have the right amount of time. So, when I work on fine hair, my pressure on my iron, I don't hold my iron at the base of the handle, I hold it closer to the tip of the handle, because I want to make sure I have enough pressure, because I have more cuticle. I want to have more pressure, and then I have the accurate heat, and then I count 1001, 1002, 1003, about 10 seconds to get through that single strand. And if I do that, then that hair is going to lay smoothly, and I don't have to go back and do one pass over, all of that. I think that's what causes more damage with color-treated hair, is we end up baking the hair and burning the color out. What effects does sun have? If the hair is color-treated, the hair is normally in a swollen state. It's more in a negative pH. So that means your cuticle is slightly lifted. If I lift the cuticle slightly, then I can expose the dye intermediates to the sun. The sun's rays can have a tendency sometimes to lighten the hair. It'll lighten natural melanin itself. The reason that will happen is because usually you're at the beach. You either have salt in the air, or you're in the ocean. Your hair swells slightly, and it exposes it to the UVA rays, or the electromagnetic rays from the sun, and that's how your hair has a tendency to lighten when you go to the beach or when you spend a week in Hawaii. Really quite simple on what's happening there. I always say to my redheads when they go on vacation, when they go to the islands, I say, remember, wear a hat. And they all say, yeah, yeah, yeah. My clients who are golfers, women golfers, I tell them to wear a hat. And their idea of a hat sometimes is just a little brim here, and their hair sticks out through the top. They call that a hat. So you do have to be cautious. That's why I think using heat insulating products, if your hair is in a fragile color, I think a bright, vibrant red is a fragile color. And so for me, it takes more maintenance to take care of it. A light pastel blonde is a fragile color, so it takes a little bit more maintenance to maintain it and take care of it. I was told the sun was 10 times more damaging than pre-lightener. Really? 10 times more damaging? I wonder how they measured that. Wow. I find that hard to believe, because if I'm taking any kind of a lightening product at a pH of 11 or 12, okay, and I'm applying that directly to the hair, I can't imagine that the electromagnetic rays from the sun could be more damaging than that, because when you're using those high of alkalinity products, those products that high in alkaline, you are literally cooking the hair chemically. So I don't know. I'd always like to know how they measured that. How did they find that measurement? All right, let me see if I missed anything. Chemical and physical behaviors of the hair. I believe there's a lot of misinformation. Yeah, I totally agree. So those are the 3 questions. Does anybody else have any other questions? You waved at making it. Any questions about any of the stuff I just covered? I was an influencer that was telling people that heat and sun increase the alkalinity and hair color. It doesn't increase the alkalinity. If hair color has an alkaline pH, by heating it up, it doesn't make it higher in alkalinity, but it does accelerate the chemical process. So that's why I don't recommend heat with your color. Interesting. Yeah, I've never seen that. So not me, your education, you do. Let me tell you a little bit about that. Do you think when someone sweats underneath their hat, it would affect their hair color? It's possible, because perspiration has salt in it. If your hair is fragile types of hair, it could cause your hair to lighten quicker. My hair lightens quicker automatically because my hair is baby fine. So, that's something that you just need to be aware of. If you have fine, fragile hair, you need to take care of it more. And that's the thing that I think sometimes we don't counsel our clients enough on how to maintain their hair while they're away. Sometimes we're just so preoccupied with making sure it looks good while they're there. And once they leave, we don't think about what are they going to do when they go home. I always think about what they're going to do when they go home, because they're now a walking advertisement for my business. And so if I don't coach them on how to take care of their hair while they're at home, then I'm going to allow them to possibly not treat the hair the way they should, because they don't have the same behaviors, and it could make my work look really bad. So, part of that is helping them achieve a great result, giving them some coaching, and that coaching helps to tie that client to you. It helps keep that client loyal. As far as education that we are doing, we have kind of sat on the sidelines here during this whole lockdown, because there's so much stuff going on, so much chaos happening on social media. But we are starting again. I'll be posting today and tomorrow. We do have some online programs coming up this month, and then of course we've moved a lot of our stuff to June, because we thought that things would be clear by then. But I live in the state of California, which is the People's Republic of California, so they want to keep us locked down till November, which is not going to happen, I'm sure. With summer close, what is the best way to take care of hair in regards to swimming pools? Oh, really, really great. If you have a product that has, or a brand of whatever brand of product you're using, and you have an acidifying rinse. Acidifying rinse is usually, it's a spray that has a pH of somewhere between 3.5 and 4. That's the one I recommend the most. There are many on the market. You know, I have my favorites. There are many on the market. I recommend that you have your client keep one of those in their beach bag before they jump into the pool or before they head out to the beach to run into the water. Make sure that they spray their hair with that. What will happen is that's going to acidify the hair. It's going to constrict the hair. So it's going to help protect it while they're in the water. And then I have them spray it again when they get out of the water. Once they do that, at the end of, once they've been in the pool or they've been at the ocean if you're at the beach, run over to one of those showers or shampoo your hair as quickly, you know, as soon as you get home, shampoo your hair. And then, again, go through a treatment process. Make sure you're using a good acid-based shampoo, low pH shampoo, low pH conditioner, and then an acidifying rinse. I think that would be great. If they're going to just simply set in the sun, because some people go to the beach, just set at the beach. They don't want to get in the water. I recommend you, if you have a brand of product that you use that has a thermal protector, and it actually has to be a thermal protector. Some products say they have a thermal protector, but they really don't. Best way to test those is to take the thermal spray and spray it on one of your arms. And then take your dryer on the hottest setting you have and apply it to the arm that has no thermal protector on it, and see how quickly you feel the heat. Then take the dryer and apply it to where the thermal protector on your other arm is. See how long you can sustain yourself, okay, without feeling the heat. If the thermal protector actually works, and it's not just marketing story, you should be able to withstand that heat for maybe 10-15 seconds, sometimes even longer than that based on how they built the product. Because I don't know of everybody's ingredient deck, I can only give you a general idea, but that's the way that I would do that. I have my clients prepared for summer so that they can make sure that they're looking their very, very best. I also, for my blondes who go out at summertime, I always make sure that they have a color shampoo that they can use on their hair when they're shampooing their hair at home. And the color shampoo is going to help enhance or help reinforce the toning that we've done on their blonde hair. And so, and the great thing is that there's all kinds of toning shampoos you can use, so you pick the one you like. The brand that I use, what I love about it is that I can make my own toning shampoo. I can make it whatever color I want it to be. Because remember, most toning shampoos that are acidic, that means they have a low pH, 3.5 to 4.5. The direct dyes that they're using in those shampoos are acid, are true acid direct dyes. And most direct dyes that are acid are cationic. Cationic means that they are positively charged. Okay, that means that you don't have to swell the cuticle in order to get those dyes to attach. Those dyes will attach automatically because they are cationic. They attach to the hair. Remember, cationic attaches, anionic pulls away. So you want a cationic based shampoo. So I make up a custom shampoo for all my clients that are going out on vacation, so they can, and it's a reinforcing shampoo, so it's not got a lot of pigment in it because I don't want them dealing with that, because I know their hair is going to get porous if they're in Hawaii and they're out in the sun and they're in the pool. I just want to give them something to just kind of enhance that tone slightly to make sure their hair continues to look its very best. So that's the way I would approach that. All right, I saw a question here. Do you think when someone sweats under, or we already got that. Hopefully I answered that for you. With summer close, what's the best way to take care of hair? That's what I recommended for you. Kendra Zeller, how does sweat affect the hair? Should you shampoo the hair after every workout if hair only gets slightly damp? Absolutely. Your sweat or perspiration has salt in it. Okay, so here's what happens. If you do not shampoo, the water will dry, right? So the water will, it will dry, it will dissipate away, and what you will be left with is some residual of salt. And so that can cause you two issues, especially if they're coming to get their hair colored. Salt has been used as a natural mordant in the textile industry for years. In other words, we would treat a garment with salt before we dyed it because the salt would help to lock the color in. Because salt, remember, you have salt bonds in your hair. Salt helps to expel moisture and helps give the hair strength. So you're actually putting ionic bonds in the hair. That's what the salt bond is in the hair. The natural salt bond, it's an ionic bond. So if I have those in the hair or around the hairline and I go to color my client's hair, that hairline could take a little bit deeper. It could take a little bit more dramatically. And so that's why I always recommend that, even after a workout, that you should do a light shampoo. Definitely, if you're going to have a color service, after that, if your hairdresser doesn't do a clarifying treatment before they color your hair, I definitely recommend that you do that. All right, let's see here. Is it true that aluminum foils can damage the hair due to metal from it? Okay. Here's an example of a story that has hung on in our industry. First of all, aluminum is going to have no effect. There's no metallic reaction from aluminum foil. So that's nonsense, okay? It's the same thing when people say, well, I want to mix my color in a metal bowl, but I know I don't want a chemical reaction. All right, so metal bowls that we use today are usually coated. And the reason that they're coated is because most of them are food grade, which means that you can mix your color in a metal bowl, a food grade metal bowl, and you won't have any kind of a chemical reaction at all. But see, that's one of those old stories that have hung around in our industry, and it makes us fearful. I'm not endorsing using chemical bowls, but it's something you can be aware of. But you can create chemical reactions by other means, not necessarily a metal reaction, but I know people say, well, don't use a whisk when you mix your hair color because whisks are made of metal and you'll get a chemical reaction, and you won't. Most of the whisks you buy today are food grade. They're coated. They're not going to give you any problems at all. But you need to be sure when you clean your color bowls, you need to make sure, especially if you don't know what the pH of your water is in the salon, because not all of us have water at a pH of 7. I know that sounds crazy, but it's true. In some parts of the country, like in Texas, southern Texas, El Paso, those areas, they have a lot of iron in their water. Okay, so just simply rinsing my bowls in the dispensary sink and washing them, we would think that that would be sufficient. But what happens is, because the water itself has metallics in it, if we wash those bowls at the end of our day and we let them dry, and then next morning we come in and we mix our lightener, we are now mixing lightener in a bowl that, remember, water dissipates, it dries, it dries up, and it leaves some residual. And so as a result of that, it could cause my lightener to get hot. It could cause my lightener to smoke. It could cause a lot of side effects. Nothing wrong with the bowl, nothing wrong with anything except that it's how you rinsed your bowls. So I say check the pH of your water. There's an easy fix for that. Buy yourself, 6 half gallons of distilled water. It only costs about 80 cents a bottle. It's not expensive. But it's pure water, it's purified. If it's distilled, what happens is you can rinse your bowls into the distilled water, and all of that residual that I've just been talking about won't even be an issue for you. The same thing when we're mixing treatments, that say you mix the treatment with water. Many people just use the water out of their faucet. But if your pH of the water in the salon is higher than 7, then there's a possibility that some of those elements that are in the water could affect how impactful the treatment is that you're using on your client's hair. So we just have distilled water. We mix all of our treatments that require mixing with water. We mix them with distilled water. Anytime and even when I use a lightener, like many of you have heard me talk about, like sometimes I had a client who is sitting in my chair and her color is processing, and I'll take my powdered lightener and mix it with a little bit of water and take my small etching brush, which is a very narrow brush at an angle, and I will just etch that in the last 10 or 15 minutes of the color process. I'm not trying to create a highlight. All I'm trying to create is high-low dimension. I'm trying to create just dimension. I'm trying to break it up. And yes, I'm putting lightener over hair color. Oh my God, can you do that? Yes, you can. Is it controllable? Yes, it is. You're not going to go have lunch while that's processing. But what it's going to do is it's going to degrade some of the dyes that have just developed. So you're creating a scrambled visual effect. And you can do that as long as you understand the principles of hair color. And so when I do that, I always use distilled water because I don't want to create any sort of a chemical reaction. So hopefully that answers that for you. Is it true that aluminum foils, I hope that answered the aluminum foil story for you. It's just like people say, well, should I use the shiny side or the dull side of the aluminum? You only worry about that when you're cooking your turkey at Thanksgiving or Christmas. It has nothing to do with the way the hair will process in the foil. What's the time for hair receive treatment? Does it need 15 minutes or can it be achieved in less time? Great question. It can be achieved in 5 minutes. Funny thing about hair will only take in as much as it needs and then it will repel the rest. So if you really want to maximize the benefit of your treatment, apply your treatment to the hair, let it process for 5 minutes, rinse, blot the hair, and reapply your treatment a second time. And if you choose, at the end of that 5 minutes, rinse, blot, and apply your treatment a third time. Here's what we know. If I take a restructuring treatment and I use it three times in a row, back to back, back to back to back to back, you can actually feel that hair getting stronger. I can increase the strength of the hair by about 60% by approaching it that way, rather than putting her under a dryer and letting her sit there for a half hour to 45 minutes. Now, if you're running behind, by all means, put a cap on her head, let her sit under the dryer for a few minutes, give her a cup of coffee, or that's right, we can't do that anymore. I'll have her bring her own coffee and let that process. But we waste a lot of time in the salon. Hi, Christine. We waste a lot of time in the salon thinking that the longer it processes under heat, the better. And where that came from is back in the old days when we had proteins that were very, very, they were coating, glue. They were literally glue. And we applied them to the hair. We knew that by using heat, it would just help them, coat the hair more. And that's the reason we used heat. But heat has really no effect on it. That's all cosmetic. I have no problem with you doing that, but it's all cosmetic for the most part. What did he say to spray before the pool? Acidifying rinse. Acidifying rinse. I don't know who your manufacturer is. Hold on. I need some caffeine. I don't know who your manufacturer is that you use, but check and see if they have an acidifying rinse. It usually has a very low pH. So ask them what the pH of it is. You don't want to rinse at pH of 5. You want something at 3.5, down around that area. Kind of like the pH of vinegar, because vinegar has a pH of 3, and vinegar is very acidifying to the hair. Okay, it's very acidifying, but it doesn't smell great. So, those kinds of things, just what you need to use, that will help close that cuticle or shrink the cuticle and help protect the hair. I use 3.5 to help preserve my color. Amen. Yeah, 3.5 pH is great. It's the same pH that most peroxides are set at. 3.5 to 4.5. Some even go to 5 now. But anything in that acid range is going to keep your color looking its very, very best. And I'm glad that you're doing that, and I'm glad that you're sharing that with your clients, because that's going to help your clients really believe in you, and it's going to make them more loyal. All right. What's my favorite spray before going out in the sun? My favorite spray before going out in the sun is Formula 18 Leave-In Conditioner. pH of 3.5, and it protects the hair. It works really great. And then if I am using a heating tool on my head, I use Formula 18 Thermal Styling Spray, because it will help to protect the hair from excessive heat. My dog hears yours and is looking for, yeah, that's my puppy. She's not a puppy anymore. She is in my eyes and my heart, but you know, she's getting so big. It's like they grow up so fast. Sounds like I'm talking about my kids, right? All right, this is my fave. I love explaining why we choose shampoo versus conditioner for F18 toning. Well, the shampoo that for F18, if you're an F18, I'm back. If you're an F18 user, we have a product called Color Keeper. And the Color Keeper shampoo is actually the same base as the base that's used in the toning shampoos. It's a cationic shampoo. So you can use that shampoo after freshly colored hair, and you're not going to have, because it's not anionic, so it's not going to leach out any of the dyes that have developed in the hair. And what makes it a real advantage is that I can take the Formula 18 direct dyes, and I can use those in a measured formula into that shampoo, and I can use it to tone the hair. And the Color Keeper conditioner is the same as the Color Keeper shampoo. So it's a conditioning agent, but it is cationic. So it really does help protect the hair color. And I have been known to use some of the direct dyes, both in my shampoo and in my conditioner, and of course I use much less in my conditioner, just a small amount, to help keep that hair looking its very, very best. Okay, so that should help everyone. All right, what's my opinion on products like New Wash that are taking the shampooing aspect out of the beauty routine? Just curious with potential damage of the hair fiber of shampooing. Okay, so here's the thing about shampooing, is that shampoo is designed to remove buildup and foreign material from the hair. Shampoo has in it things that like surfactants. I'm sure you've all heard the word surfactant. Now here's the thing about a surfactant molecule. A surfactant molecule on one end is oil loving. That's what we call lipophilic. So it loves oil. On the other end of the surfactant molecule is hydrophilic, which means it loves water. So surfactants act as a marrying agent. So a surfactant goes applied to the hair will, number one, it will attach itself, okay, to the oil that's in the hair, the buildup that's in the hair. And because it's also hydrophilic, when I apply water to the mixture, it rinses from the hair clean. So if your manufacturer has constructed their shampoo that way, there's no way to have damage from shampoo. And so there are people who now have conditioners that are shampoos that they say you shampoo with a conditioner, and it has to have some ingredient in it that will allow it to remove buildup. Because if you're not removing buildup from the hair, you can have serious problems. So it's not that shampoo is damaging to the hair. Well, some shampoos could be based upon how they're built. But if you build a shampoo properly, it is not damaging to the hair. Now, we have some shampoos today that are very high in pH. In fact, we have manufacturers today that don't even put pH on their products, which I find interesting because pH is actually the universal tool that we use to measure the products that we're using. How do they work? What are they doing? Where do they set on the pH scale? We know where the hair sets, 4.5 to 5.5. That's where it needs to be in an optimum environment. When we shift the hair out of that pH range and we move it anywhere, like if we move it into the alkaline side or the base side or the hydroxide side, the hair is going to swell more. If we move it into the acid side or the hydrogen side, the hair is going to constrict more. The extreme ends of the pH scale can damage the hair, both of them. A pH of 1 can be just as damaging to the hair as a pH of 14. So pH is an important thing, and I'm shocked that manufacturers, not only do they not advertise it on their product, they don't even talk about it. Some of their educators don't even know. I can't tell you how many people since we started Guru Nation have found out about pH strips and pH meters and have gone through and checked the pH of the products that they're talking about. And now that gives you much more control because you know how the product works. So for my thing about New Wash, I don't need that. Remember, manufacturers always have a romantic story about a product. But I think if you use a proper type of shampoo, you're not going to have an issue. It's just like clarifying. Clarifying the hair is a positive, negative charge, attraction. Has nothing to do with swelling the hair. But yet many manufacturers make clarifying shampoos that are a pH of 9. Why would you do that? That's the same pH as a permanent wave. So I think it's either they don't understand, I would hope it, they don't understand, because you don't need to do that. You can clarify the hair with a shampoo that has a pH of 3.5 to 5.5, even up to 5. That's a very safe range to work within, because that's where the hair reacts the most. Remember, hair has no pH. So if you put it in a alkaline situation, it's going to be alkaline. If you put it in an acid situation, it's going to be acid. Before you color, do you recommend applying to damp hair or do you dry it? Actually, you can breeze dry the hair after you've clarified. That's what I always do. I breeze dry the hair. I get it about 80% dry. That means you don't even have to use a round brush on the hair. You can just simply take your concentrator, your dryer, your concentrator, and just go through that just a little bit. Usually, if you do a great blotting job, and then if you take simple paper towels, and blot your client's head with paper towels, those paper towels will take up, like Bravo soaks up all the liquid. It will take up some of the excessive moisture out of that hair, so there won't be much moisture left in that hair after you've clarified. A quick breeze dry, and you're good to go. Okay, I got 2 minutes left. Look, I know you got other questions. I watched a class yesterday that I cringed. I got shivers when she said she rinsed Vivids with cold water. Yeah, I could do a whole thing on that. I will, but I can't do it today. I want to close this off at the end so we don't get cut off. Listen, hopefully I've answered some of your questions. Thank you guys so much for being on with me today. I hope you're all doing well. I wish you safety. Get prepared for this. We're all going to come back. I believe we're going to have a really strong finish at the end of this year. But stay well, stay safe, prepare for it, because you don't know what your state's going to ask you to do. And until I see you again, from my heart to yours, I'm Captain Color. I'm out of here. You guys have a great weekend. Bye-bye.